Hello, Grace, and welcome back to Cover to Cover. Today's reading is Isaiah 34 and 35, along with Micah 2 through 5. Isaiah and Micah both prophesied at overlapping periods, and if you look at the opening lines of both books, you'll see that they both prophesied during the reigns of kings Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. Isaiah was from the city, and he had access to the royal court, whereas Micah was a rural prophet from a town southwest of Jerusalem named Moresheth, located in the foothills between the coast and the mountains. Both of today's readings are oracles of judgment, followed by promises of blessing. But scholars also think that they share a similar historical context, which is the destruction of the northern kingdom of Israel by Assyria. In 722 BC, the northern kingdom of Israel was conquered, and its people experienced what we call double deportation, or a population exchange. Jews were exiled from the north, and foreigners were brought in to breed out the survivors who remained. When the Gospels refer to Samaritans, these are the descendants of this Assyrian conquest. So they're kind of mixed blood. For 20 years, the kingdom of Judah in the south pays tribute to Assyria. But around 703, 701 BC, Hezekiah makes an alliance with neighboring countries, and he refuses to pay his tribute to Assyria. Assyria then returns and devastates the kingdom of Judah, nearly captures Jerusalem. Both of today's readings in Isaiah and Micah likely take place in the context of this crisis. Assyria is destroying the towns of Judah and is preparing to capture Jerusalem. As Pastor Seth mentioned in previous readings, one of the sins for which God is judging Judah and Israel is that they made treaties with the superpowers like Egypt. They in effect said, we don't trust our God to guide us and protect us, and so we will trust in these pagan kingdoms. Sadly, after Jerusalem is miraculously saved, Hezekiah welcomes diplomats from Babylon, and the narrative tells us that tells the reader that Hezekiah, good king that he was, goes on to repeat the same mistake that led to all of this trouble. Isaiah 34 and 35 and Micah 2 through 5 kind of go together. They both include oracles of judgment and blessing. Restoration follows judgment, but Isaiah 34 focuses on Edom's judgment. Why is that? Two reasons. First, during this crisis, where Assyria is ravaging the land side, Edom sides with Assyria, and Edom became Assyria's vassal. They conducted raids into Israel and Judah, and they captured refugees that were fleeing the conquest. Edom, which is a brother nation to Israel, descended from Esau, refused to help Israel. And secondly, you'll see this frequently throughout the prophetic texts. Edom is often used as a symbolic representation of just the nations of the world. And so the oracle in Isaiah fittingly begins with Edom. As Assyria ravages the country and the rural towns and the rural town folks flee to the larger cities, the wealthy take advantage of the circumstances and begin to exploit the refugees. This exploitation of the vulnerable is the theme of Micah chapters 2 and chapters 3. In chapter 3, this exploitation is likened to cannibalism, as the wealthy are depicted as devouring the people and gnawing on their bones. Micah goes on to state that there are false prophets prophesying good news, and they are just as greedy, charging money for their prophecies. Our readings in Isaiah and Micah both begin with this imagery of cosmic disturbance. The mountains are melting, the heavens are rolled up like a scroll, and this is a common ancient Near Eastern trope. In the Bible, it relates to God's promise in Genesis 8:22, where it says, "As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, night and day." The oracles are affirming God's power by looking back to the flood, and they're also looking forward to the day of the Lord when God will come back and judge the earth once again, just as he did in the flood. The Old Testament likes to pair judgment with restoration, especially where Israel is concerned. When judgment is decreed, it's never the final word, but the prophets reliably conclude with some sort of message of hope. Micah and Isaiah contain profound promises of God's continued faithfulness and blessing. The death and destruction of Isaiah 34 is contrasted with life and renewal in Isaiah chapter 35. Some authors say that chapter 35 is describing a new Eden, kind of like a return back to the garden. And that leads us to some profound messianic prophecies present here in Micah and Isaiah. Micah 4 replicates Isaiah chapter 2, where, again, there's more Edenic imagery, where weapons are hammered into farm equipment. Micah 5 also contains the prophecy of the ruler that's going to come out of Bethlehem. And a point of particular interest to me is Isaiah chapter 35, because a friend of mine in college wrote his master's thesis on this subject. In Matthew 11, 4 through 5, and Luke 7:22, the disciples of John the Baptist asked Jesus if he is the one to come or if they should wait for someone else. And Jesus begins by quoting Isaiah 35, 5 through 6. He says, the blind receive their sight. Go tell John what you see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, and the deaf hear. But then Jesus continues to say, the dead are raised and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. And this additional portion is not found in the text of Isaiah, but it is found in one of the fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls.